A long time ago, before humans walked the land, before cities rose and kingdoms fell, there lived a mighty mountain named Arbuda. Towering with pride and covered in emerald forests, Arbuda was part of a majestic ancient range, what we now call the Aravali Hills. But Arbuda wasn't just any mountain. He was one of the oldest mountains on Earth, older than even the Himalayas. Millions of years ago, he was born from the great movements of the Earth's crust when continents were still young. His body stretched proudly across what would later become the lands of Rajasthan, Gujarat, Haryana, and Delhi. He was the guardian of the West. Arbuda stood tall for ages, watching the world change. He saw oceans come and go, felt the footsteps of dinosaurs, and heard the whispers of the first humans. But with each passing era, the wind began to bite, and time began to erode his peaks. Unlike his younger cousins, the Himalayas, newborn and rising, Arbuda and his siblings in the Aravali range started to shrink. Once snow-capped and jagged, they were slowly worn down by millions of years of wind, water, and time. Their sharp edges softened. Their voices became quieter, but their spirit remained. There's an old legend, whispered in the deserts of Rajasthan. It is said that once, a giant serpent demon named Vasuki began to terrorize the land near Mount Abu, which comes from Arbuda. The land became dry, rivers vanished, and people prayed for help. Hearing their cries, the great sage Vashistha performed a powerful yajna ritual. From the sacred fire emerged a mighty warrior named Arbuda, who fought and defeated the serpent. To reward this land, the gods gifted it with the Aravali Hills, bringing greenery to the desert. And on the peak where the ritual took place, rose Mount Abu, the spiritual heart of the range. As time passed, Arbuda welcomed people. The Harappan civilization built early settlements near his foothills, using the hill stones for homes and temples. Later came the Rajputs, who built forts on the ridges like the Grand Kumhalgarh and Chittorgarh forts. The hills were perfect, natural defenses for mighty warriors. Even today, Aravali shelters leopards, nilgai, sloth bears, and the sacred forests of Rajasthan. In the heart of the range stands the Dilwara temples, carved from white marble, where stories are etched into stone and devotion lives in silence. Now, the Aravali Hills are no longer towering like before. The wind has aged them, and mining and deforestation have left deep scars. But if you hike into their valleys at dawn, when the mist still clings to the trees and the birds begin to sing, you might hear Arbuda breathing. While the Himalayas are like young, sharp warriors, still growing, still rising, the Aravali Hills are like wise old sages. Scientists believe the Aravalis are over 2.5 billion years old, born in the Precambrian era, making them one of the oldest geological formations in the world. They once rivaled the Himalayas in height, but millions of years of erosion turned their towering peaks into gentle, rolling hills. What remains now are the skeletons of once mighty mountains, humble, but full of stories. The Aravalis stretch across around 800 kilometers, cutting diagonally from Delhi to Gujarat. Imagine them as the ancient spine of western India, dividing the Thar Desert from the plains of the Ganga. Key landmarks along the range include Mount Abu, Rajasthan, the highest peak 1,722 meters, a sacred pilgrimage site, and the home of the legendary Dilwara Jain temples. Guru Shikhar, the highest point of Mount Abu and the entire Aravali range. Sariska and Ranthambore wildlife sanctuaries nestled in the arms of the Aravalis. The ridge in Delhi, the northern tail of the Aravali range, now hidden among buildings and traffic. The Aravali Hills aren't just rocks. They are considered living, breathing abodes of divine energy. In Hindu legends, sage Vashistha was saved by a cow sent by Lord Shiva. The place where he performed his yajna is now Mount Abu. The hills are said to have sheltered Pandavas during their exile. Jain Tirthankaras meditated in these ranges, especially at Mount Abu, giving rise to stunning white marble temples, so delicately carved they seem to breathe. In many tribal and local beliefs, the forests of Aravali are sacred groves. No one dares to cut trees there, fearing the wrath of ancient forest spirits. Today, the Aravalis are one of the last refuges for wildlife in many parts of India. Leopards roam the wild hills of Jalana and Jawai. Sloth bears, hyenas, jackals, and rare birds call these ranges home. In Delhi's Asolabati Sanctuary, part of the ridge, the northern Aravali, small herds of nilgai and even jungle cats survive against all odds. But sadly, mining, urban expansion, and deforestation are eating away at these ancient guardians. In every stone of Aravali, there's a tale of civilizations lost, of temples forgotten, of tribes who still live as their ancestors did. Even today, Bhil, Garasia, and Meena tribal communities live in harmony with the forest. They sing songs about the hills, trees, and gods of the mountains. They believe the Aravalis listen. They believe the hills protect them. There are mountains that rise like spears and claim the skies, and then there are mountains like the Aravali, weathered, grounded, ancient. They do not scream their presence. They hum it. They do not rise in defiance. They rest in wisdom. The Aravali Hills are not just a range of rocks and trees. They are the memory of the earth, a living, breathing chronicle etched in stone. Once, they stood tall, majestic peaks formed billions of years ago, long before the Himalayas had even begun to stir. They watched the continents drift, saw rivers being born, and witnessed the earliest sparks of life flicker and catch flame. The Aravalis have seen the rise and fall of everything: oceans, empires, languages, and legends. To touch the rocks of Aravali is to place your hand on the bones of the planet itself. The winds that blow across the range are older than memory. They pass through dry grass, whispering secrets in tongues no one speaks anymore. If you listen carefully, if you close your eyes and place your ear to the earth, you might hear them, stories of tribes that once sang beneath the stars, of rishis who meditated in caves, their chants echoing through time. But perhaps the most sacred secret of Aravali lies not above the ground, but beneath it. Vansda, a forgotten underground river, once flowed beneath the Aravalis, a hidden artery that nourished forests even when the skies refused to give rain. The sages believed this river had divine origins and that it could only be seen by those whose hearts were truly pure. Today, no one knows where it is. Maybe it's gone, or maybe it just waits. In the folds of the Aravalis, you'll find caves that are unmarked on any map. The locals say there are stones inside with ancient scripts, neither Sanskrit nor Prakrit, words that feel familiar but can't be understood. Some say they were left behind by yakshas, celestial beings who once guarded the earth's hidden treasures. Others whisper of serpent gods who slithered through underground tunnels, creating echo chambers of forgotten magic. There is a place, known only to a few wandering sadhus, called Kalpavriksha Valley. They say that under a certain tree there, if you sit in silence and close your eyes during Amavasya, new moon, you can see your past lives, not through dreams, but as flashes in the soil, like memories imprinted in the dust. These are the kinds of places the Aravalis hide, not just landscapes but realms. But all this wisdom, all this beauty, carries with it an ache. You see, the Aravalis are tired. Once draped in thick forests and teeming with wildlife, they are now scarred by the greed of men. Mining machines dig into their flesh. Trees fall and are not replaced. Villages become cities, and cities forget the hills that cradle them. Yet, even in this pain, the Aravalis remain gentle. They do not resist like young mountains might. They allow. They forgive, because they know time better than we do. They have seen empires rise believing they were eternal. They have seen gods carved from stone crumble into dust. They know we are temporary and they endure. And then there is the love story. Yes, one you won't read in any book. A tribal legend tells of a princess named Aranya, daughter of the forest, and a warrior named Kanish, whose soul was forged in fire. He came from the desert beyond the dunes, and when he laid eyes on Aranya in the valley of Mandav, he swore he'd never leave. But the gods had other plans. A war came. Kanish was taken. Aranya waited on the peak for days, then weeks, then years, until the gods, moved by her devotion, turned her into a mountain so she could stand forever, watching the horizon where her lover vanished. That mountain became part of the Aravalis. Some say on certain nights you can still hear her sobbing in the wind. And so, the Aravalis are not just a place on a map. They are a library of nature, a graveyard of forgotten legends, a temple for the patient listener. They do not need to be climbed or conquered. They ask only to be remembered. Because in remembering them, you remember where you come from. Because we are not born from cities and screens. We are born from soil, stone, wind, and stars. And perhaps, just perhaps, when the world becomes too noisy, the Aravali Hills will still be waiting silent, ancient, and wise, ready to tell you who you really are.